More than half a century has passed, yet this name still casts a chilling shadow over America. He didn't just kill, he challenged the police. He played a game with an entire nation, using ciphers and ink to turn his crimes into a bloody spectacle. This is the story of Zodiac, the Zodiac Killer, an unprecedented criminal case where the perpetrator gloated over his crimes, turning the investigation into a ghost hunt spanning from the 60s to today. We will follow every clue, every letter, to try and decode who is the real Zodiac. California, late 1960s. A time of transition, the freedom of the hippie movement contrasted with the turmoil of the Vietnam War. People spoke of love and peace, but somewhere in the shadows, a new terror was brewing. Everything began silently, in a place that was supposed to be peaceful. The night of December 20, 1968, at the secluded parking lot of Lake Herman Road, Vallejo, two teenagers, David Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, were enjoying their first date. That romantic moment was severed by the blinding headlights of an unfamiliar car. The hidden attacker emerged. No warning, no robbery, no demands. He forced the victims out of the car. David was shot in the head. Betty Lou, in a desperate attempt to flee, was shot multiple times in the back at close range. Both died. This was an execution-style murder, cold-blooded, unprovoked, with no apparent motive other than pure homicide. Vallejo police initially dismissed it as a random lover's lane killing. They were wrong. This was merely the prelude for the man who would become their nightmare. The killer fell silent for 6 months, allowing the police to sink into their mistaken complacency. Then he reappeared, not just to kill, but to openly challenge. July 6, 1969. The location? Blue Rock Springs Park, Vallejo, just 4 miles from the Lake Herman crime scene. The victims: Darlene Farron, 22, and her friend Mike Mageau, 19. The script was nearly identical. Around midnight, a second car pulled up. This time, the attacker shone a flashlight directly at the couple, then opened fire repeatedly. Darlene died instantly, but Mike Mageau, despite being critically wounded, miraculously survived. It was Mageau who provided the first description of the attacker: a white man, somewhat heavy-set, with light brown hair. Even more terrifying, just 40 minutes later, Vallejo police received a chilling phone call. An anonymous male voice stated, "I'm the one who shot those 2 kids last night, and I'm the one who killed those kids last year." He had connected the 2 cases. He had officially started his game. He wanted the world to know. 3 weeks later, the game officially began. 3 nearly identical letters were sent to 3 different newspapers: the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. The sender identified himself as the killer and issued an ultimatum. If the newspapers didn't publish the letter on the front page, he would kill 12 more people over the weekend. And accompanying the threat was the thing that turned this case into a legend: a 408-character cipher, or Z408. The killer claimed this code held his true identity. Fortunately, after only 24 hours, the Z408 cipher was solved by a high school teacher named Donald Hardin and his wife. The killer's identity was not in it. Instead, there was a gruesome and self-satisfied confession: "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest. Man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill. And at the end of the letter, I will not give you my name because you will try to stop me from collecting slaves for my afterlife." The Zodiac Killer was born. Attack 3, Lake Berryessa. With unexpected notoriety, Zodiac continued to push the boundaries of his crimes. September 27, 1969. Lake Berryessa. 2 students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were having a picnic. This time, Zodiac didn't just shoot from afar. He sought personal contact. a man wearing a black hood, carrying a gun and a hunting knife. He tied them both up. He claimed to be an escaped convict, but the words were just a prelude. Then, he coldly used the knife to stab Brian 6 times, Cecilia 10 times. Before leaving, he left a terrifying mark. Using a black marker, he wrote on Brian's car door, Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69, 9/27/69, 12/40, by knife. Signed, Zodiac. For the first time, he used the name to openly challenge. Brian survived. Cecilia died 2 days later. Attack 4, San Francisco taxi. Just 2 weeks later, Zodiac committed his boldest crime. October 11, 1969, San Francisco. The victim was taxi driver Paul Stine, 29. The crime occurred in Presidio Heights, a densely populated area. Zodiac had stepped out of his comfort zone. After the taxi stop, Zodiac shot Paul Stine in the head. He took the wallet and car keys. But most importantly, he tore a piece of Paul Stine's blood-stained shirt. This act showed he wanted a trophy, a piece of evidence to send to the police, a statement. 3 teenagers in the area witnessed the incident and called the police. They described a white man wiping down the inside of the taxi. This was the best chance to catch Zodiac. But a fatal communication error occurred. San Francisco police were informed that the suspect was a black man. As a result, when a patrolling police officer drove through the area, he ignored a white man who seemed to match the description because he was looking for a black man. Zodiac escaped the police net by a hair's breadth, perhaps only by a few dozen seconds. The Stine case was the climax of Zodiac's crimes. Afterward, he continuously sent letters, gruesome greeting cards, and new ciphers like Z340, much more complex. He reveled in the notoriety and fear he created. Paul Avery, the journalist covering Zodiac for the San Francisco Chronicle, received a direct, threatening postcard. It was a killer's threat against the journalist, an unprecedented escalation. The Z340 cipher, with 340 characters, was Zodiac's ultimate challenge. It resisted the sharpest minds of the FBI and NSA for over 50 years. It wasn't until 2020 that this cipher was solved by 3 amateur codebreakers. The content did not reveal his identity, but it showcased the killer's self-satisfaction and twisted religious belief. I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. I have enough slaves to help me in paradise. Police had everything: handwriting samples, fingerprints, and even DNA from the saliva on the envelope. But it all led to a dead end. The handwriting seemed disguised, the fingerprints never matched. Throughout the investigation, one name stood out above all, becoming the obsession of investigators Dave Toski and Ken Narlow: Arthur Leigh Allen. He had a history of sexual misconduct, lived in Vallejo, wore a Zodiac brand watch, and many friends and relatives reported his suspicious behaviors. Allen once told a friend he wanted to shoot a couple and write letters to the police. He owned a typewriter, a bulletproof vest. He seemed like the perfect answer. When Allen died in 1992, police quickly obtained his DNA for comparison. But the DNA from the saliva on the envelopes did not match Arthur Leigh Allen. The handwriting didn't match either. The physical evidence officially excluded Allen from the list of official suspects, despite many investigators and the public still believing he was Zodiac. The case returned to square one. Zodiac was not just a killer. He was a master manipulator, a ghost who succeeded in hiding his identity from one of the most extensive investigations in American history. After the last confirmed letter in 1974, Zodiac seemed to vanish into thin air. Did he die? Was he arrested for another crime? Or did he simply grow tired of the game? Zodiac is only confirmed to have killed 5 victims, but he claimed to have killed 37. The true number, perhaps we will never know. But importantly, He forever changed how the San Francisco and Vallejo police operate. He created a new template for serial killers seeking notoriety. Today, DNA technology has advanced significantly. Investigators are using genetic genealogy to search for Zodiac's relatives from the remaining old evidence. This is the final hope for a half-century-old case. But the biggest question remains: who is the real Zodiac? Did the police overlook one small detail in the thousands of pages of files? Is the Zodiac Killer still alive, quietly following these investigations with a self-satisfied smile about his perfect crime? Could his true identity have been in one of the ciphers that we haven't fully solved yet? Zodiac showed the world that an unknown person could sow terror, mock the law, and most importantly, win the killer's game. And until his identity is revealed, the ghost of Zodiac remains one of the darkest and most mysterious chapters in American criminal history.